Hello and welcome back to Redirecting. I am going to be talking about a very important subject today. One of those subjects that makes some of you cringe because you don't share the same views that I do, okay? Which is fine. This is a very important subject. As a matter of fact, it's probably one of the most important subjects I will ever talk about. I've talked about it before, but I'm going to go in a little deeper on this. As you can see from the title, we as parents, we have a duty to teach our sons to run away from dogs in heat. So as you can see from that title, I am not going to be holding back at all because this is so important to me. There is a very diabolical plan working already. It is already working. And many of us are none the wiser because we have been tricked into thinking that there is not a problem. We've been tricked. We think that there isn't a problem and that the problem comes with those who don't agree with certain lifestyles. It is what it is. And so I'm going to talk about this subject because something very sinister is taking place. And because we are asleep at the helm, because we are sleeping on the job and we are afraid to stand up for what is right, some very, very, very sinister things are taking place right under our noses. Right under our noses. And so let me get right into this. I want to say this too, that even if you're a single mother, this message is definitely for you as well. If you have a son, single mothers with sons, this is for you as well. Okay? For you as well. Because many times we think because there is no male figure in the child's family or life that could influence them, that there's nothing we can do. And that's simply not true. We have an obligation to tell our children or teach them the truth regardless to what is going on. You have to teach them these truths as though their lives depend on it, because they do. Now, even if you don't agree with my view initially, at some point, reality will kick in and you will understand where I'm coming from. I've had so many conversations with young men, including in my own family, to where reality kicked them in the tail as it relates to this subject that I'm going to talk about. But if you have a son, I don't care how young he is, you start him off early, okay? And throughout their growing years, you really have to put it into their minds that they have got to run away from dogs in heat. Now I'm going to share a story with you that will actually lay the groundwork for what I'm talking about. I will lay the foundation with this story, okay? And then I'll continue to expound from there. But our son came home and he shared a story with us that was very, very disturbing to me. Something that happened to him on the job. And in sharing this, all kinds of thoughts went through my head, but at the same time, knowing that we have taught our son the truth, I already knew the outcome, but the fact that this is happening is just a testament that educating and teaching your children does work, and it is very important. Because of what we instilled in our son, he knows how to deal with these situations. Okay. And I pray that Yah continues to strengthen him in this area. We have to always pray for our children, regardless to what we teach them. Always pray for them. We have to always pray for them that they are able to stand against the wiles of the devil. So anyway, this is what happens. If you don't teach your sons to run away from dogs in heat, they can get trapped or they can get caught up. But anyway, one of his co-workers approaches him, and this is a Gentile male, and he asks him, "What do you think about her over there?" She's a Gentile female. And my son says, "I don't think anything about her." And so the guy proceeds to say, "Oh, you don't think she's fine, or you don't think she's cute or whatever?" The word wasn't fine, but He said something along the lines of pretty or cute. Fine is a terminology that we used most of the time. But anyway, this Gentile male proceeds to ask our son, what does he think about this Gentile female over there, pointing her out? And he says, I don't think anything about her. And so he asks, so you don't like those type of females? Or you don't think they're pretty? He said, that ain't got nothing to do with it. I'm just not interested. I don't think anything about it because I am with someone. Now, our son is courting a very nice young woman, okay? And she is a melanated young woman. And so that's where his heart is. But you have this young man saying to him, what do you think about this one? And so when he proceeds to tell this Gentile male that he is courting someone, this Gentile male says, but it doesn't hurt to look though. And my son says, I am not cut like that. My parents did not teach me to be like that. Okay. And so what it is they like to dangle this bait in front of black males. And if you haven't taught them some sense from a very early age, they just might fall for the bait. Here we are in the workplace, a Gentile male trying to get him, our son, to look at and be interested in a Gentile female, even asking him, don't you think she's cute? Huh? Don't you think she's cute? Well, there's nothing wrong with looking. So he has established that he doesn't see anything wrong with looking. But he's not asking him to look at a black female. He's asking our son if he's looking at this one or if he thinks she's cute, the Gentile. Okay, so that's the first part. The second part is the young woman is always trying to get Eliah's attention, doing and saying various things. She's not the only one either. He's told us other stories, but the reason I'm using this one is for some very specific things that came about. But anyway, she's always trying to get his attention and just doing this and doing that. This is how they operate because they know that there is a worldwide epidemic of loose-minded, weak, melanated men who fall for the bait because they are not strong enough to understand what is happening to them. Okay, so what this young woman does in trying to get his attention and all of this, he is still uninterested and he cuts it off sharp. He doesn't smile, he doesn't grin, he doesn't give them any attention. He's always been that way. We taught our sons from a very early age that they want to marry someone looking like them. And some of you may think that's wrong. I really don't care at this point because I see the effects of what is happening to our people, and no one is going to convince me that to try to preserve who you are is wrong. No one's going to convince me of that because, again, I see what has happened to our people. We are being whited out, and most of us applaud the process because we are okay with it. We don't care that 10 years from now, our lineage will no longer look like us because we have celebrated whiting out ourselves. But anyway, here we go. Phase 2 of this story with this young woman who it seems like everyone is trying to dangle her in Eliah's face. Okay, you have Gentile males, you have her herself, and now here we go to an older white woman who comes over with the young woman. Now, let me just explain something real quick. Our son, he gets off late. Sometimes he gets off at midnight. Sometimes he'll get off at 1, depending on if they have to do that overtime. So we're talking about midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning, right? And so this older woman comes over with this young lady, the young lady in question, and says, hey, do you mind giving her a ride home? She doesn't have a vehicle and she's only a few blocks away from here. I would do it, but I go in a total opposite direction. So it would really help out if you could give her a ride home when you guys leave work because you're on the same shift, get off at the same time. It would be great if you can give her a ride home, right? Now, as my son is telling us this story, I am boiling on the inside. Anyone who knows me understands that I have all kinds of thoughts going through my mind because I see the handiwork of the devil when it's taking place. But anyway, I'm saying to myself, so you had this young Gentile. Now you have this older Gentile woman trying to get our son to take this young woman home at 1 o'clock at night when they leave work. And so our son, he said, I can't do it. Can't do it. He gave his reasons as to why he couldn't do it. But let me say something about this. This plant where he works at, there are so many doggone people working there. They have all of these different shifts throughout the day. Hundreds, if not, I don't know if it's thousands, but there are hundreds of people working there. So I find it very interesting that these people want to pinpoint our son and try to get him to be the one to look at her, to smile at her, to say whether or not he thinks she's cute or not, to give her a ride at home 1 o'clock at night. He's like, I have a young woman that I am courting. It would not look right with this young woman riding around in my vehicle. I don't care if it is a few blocks away. But that is how the stage is set. And unfortunately, a lot of our young men have not been prepped for the game. And so therefore they fall for the bait every time. Next thing you know, she's riding in there. She's touching your shoulder. Oh, thank you so much for the ride. I really appreciate this. I don't know what I'd do with it. You're a sweetie. They get to saying stuff like that. Oh, thanks, hun. The next thing you know, her hand ends up on your knee. Oh, hun, you're great. I am so thankful that you were able to do this for me. Then the next thing you know, she has an extra package or something. Do you mind helping me carry this to the door? It's kind of heavy and my hands are full. I mean, just any little thing. You have to explain to your children what the game looks like. And the game can even appear innocent. They can act uninterested for a long time. But that is the cunningness of being able to know when and how to set the stage. And so imagine your son taking this young woman home 1 o'clock at night. The conversation is going to go in the wrong direction at some point, especially if you have not prepped him. First of all, if you've prepped him properly, he will not even accept the challenge of giving her a ride home. He'll point her in another direction. Okay, that's the first thing. But if it did get to that point, a lot of young men cannot stand to the advances of a dog in heat. They can't. They'll start to wear perfume. They'll start to say various things. They'll start to turn the conversation in a sexual nature. They'll say, oh, well, what do you think about girls like me? Well, what do you think about this? Or they'll reference a movie that may have something to do with jungle fever. Some type of way the conversation will go that will plant a thought in that young man's mind and cause this young man to ponder and think on something of a sexual nature. And then it goes downhill from there. Next thing you know, your son is pinned up, locked down, and tied up and twisted up with a young Becky. Now, I know this makes some of you very uncomfortable. It is what it is, family. There is a global attempt to white us out, and we are none the wiser. As a matter of fact, I've heard and seen so many people personally, Black people, who seem proud to be able to say, oh, my grandchild is this, my grandchild is that. Like you have some type of exotic grandchild. I've seen Black grandparents who will actually favor their mixed grandchildren over their melanated or their chocolate grandchildren. I've seen that happen. Now, this has nothing to do with racism, people. Nothing at all. It's unfortunate that people can't see an agenda for what it is because they want to claim everything as racism when it is our people that are under the knife of this type of behavior. This attempt to white us out, this attempt to link themselves to our melanin, but then detach themselves by marrying back into the white, but being able to claim but I got a black great, 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 great grandfather or grandmother. It's a game, family. It is a very diabolical game. And if you are so ignorant as not to see and know what is taking place, then you are going to be crushed in the future. Your lineage will be crushed in the future. This is one of those subjects that I can go on and on with. I've known so many young men who have fallen into I'm going to call it the Becky trap. Becky will hun her way into your life, tell you how cute you are, tell you how strong you are, how masculine you are, how sexy you are. She will say all of these things to you, and then she'll start to grab on your arm, grab on your shoulder, then she'll grab your hand eventually. And all this touching and feeling and all of this stuff is a transferring of power over you. A transferring of power over you. And then the next thing you know, okay, I'm about to go deep on this, family. If your ears are too soft, you shouldn't have even tuned into this one, okay? But at some point, Becky is going to grab on you and touch you, and then you will get an erection. And then it's all over from there. Mission accomplished. That was the goal. And you fell for the bait because you could not stand the pressure. You couldn't take the heat. Now, for those of you who say, well, black girls can do that. For those of you who will say something like that, you don't even get it. You just don't get it. I have a whole other topic or video that I can talk about as it relates to, what can you call them? Loose butt black girls. Okay, that's a whole other subject. I'm not talking about that right now. I know that they exist, but that is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a global effort to white you out. And you are none the wiser because you don't want to be wise to this fact. You want to stay in the dark because what Becky has to offer you is just too hard for you to let go of. And that's only a mental thing. This is because the lust has built up in your system so badly because you did not fight it. You were not equipped with how to fight it. You didn't even want to fight it. And it's a system that is in place. When you look at commercials, there's always this push trying to make it seem like this is the best lifestyle right here. Being with someone that doesn't look like you. This is the best matchup. This is the best hookup. And then at the same time, there's the denigration of relationships with melanated people, between melanated people. It's talked about as if it is something that is undesirable. Even to the point where you have celebrities. I think it was Nick Cannon who said something about Gentile women being the bring up or the success of a black man. I believe that was something that I saw come across the screen in recent weeks, but many believe that. And maybe at some point I'll talk about that because how can they be the success when a lot of you who become successful then marry them after the fact? You see what I'm saying? You become successful and rich, those of you who are celebrities, then she comes. So how the hell was she the source of your success if you were already successful before you met her? That's just another lie and excuse to continue to rape the minds of our young black men. And so when you see what is happening, what is taking place, you can fall back to sleep if you want to, or you can take heed and you can truly understand how important it is that you sit your children down and you educate them, especially your sons. I can talk about something totally different on our young women. For those of you who say, well, what about our young women? Listen. This video is not about that. That is another separate video that I will have to do. Right now, the focus is on teaching your sons how to run away from dogs in heat. because when they are in heat, they will sniff at any door, at any corner. Because I have seen where if they can't get this one, they will move on to the next. They'll say, okay, this one is a little tough. I'm going to move on from here. But that one over there, his nose is wide open. And I'm a dog in heat, so I'm going to go over there so that he can start sniffing around at my door. All I have to do is touch his arm and say, hun, and it is all over. If you don't know the game, you will be played. You think you're a player, but you will be played, and Becky will be the one playing you, tricking you, seducing you. The scripture talks about how her ways being the ways to the pits of hell. Almost like a dart going through your liver. And you don't even know that it is for your life. Because all you see and all you feel is that lustful desire. It's a very shameful thing. It's very, very weak-minded. If all someone has to do is say a couple of words to you and you get an erection and you are ready to throw away your life. Because Becky whispers sweet nothings into your ear. And you think because, oh, she made me feel this hot, that is nothing wrong with this. You're being controlled by the wrong head, buddy. Now, when you don't teach your children properly, this is why they end up in these situations in their life. You thought it was all cute, fine and dandy in the beginning. But then when the truth comes and bites a plug out of their behind, and then you're behind, then you're wishing, you're saying coulda, shoulda, woulda. No, it's too late by that time. You have to educate your children. I don't care how uncomfortable it makes you seem when you send them out here into the world. Now, some children, regardless to what you teach them, they're going to do what they want to do. That is understood. We already know this. But that doesn't mean that you have to approve with what they do when they go astray. My children already know if you go astray, you are on your own. That's right. If you go astray, you're on your own. It's unfortunate that parents today believe that regardless to what their children do. Now, let me say this up front, because you have some people with selective hearing, okay, dull of hearing, saying and believing what they want to believe, which is totally different than what you said. Now, no one is saying that you don't love your children. When your children make mistakes, you continue to love them. Of course, you continue to love them. But when you decide to go astray, you are on your own. The love doesn't stop, but you have got to keep it moving. You got to go. That's how it works. And it's not just this relationship thing. It's just period. If you decide that you no longer want to abide by the rules of this house, then you can pack your bags and go. We've had that conversation with our children. When you decide you want to be grown, hey, get you a new address. You understand what I'm saying? Now, some think that that is quite harsh, but this is why you will have situations where you have young people who think they can whoop on their parents because, oh, I can't put him out. That's my son. That's my daughter. And next thing you know, you're hearing stories about two young women who blows their mother away, stabs her and then kills her because she didn't want to put them out. I can go on and on about this family. I can. And this is one of those subjects that I think we really need to discuss because I'm going to tell you right now, the way things are looking, it goes from bad to worse in our communities because we are afraid to teach the truth. We are afraid to tell them what is up out here. And so when they make the mistake, you say, okay, he's grown or she's grown. Let me let them do them. And when they make those mistakes, they bring them right to your door. Yes, they do. They bring them right to your door. Don't think for 1 minute that they are not teaching. There are those that teach their children not to bring home no chocolate. Now, they may do it in a racist way, okay, but they teach them that. I remember talking to a coworker a long time ago, more than 20 years ago, and she just flat out said she told her children, do not bring home no chocolate. Now, I remember I was very young at the time. I was working at the place where I met my husband, and I remember looking at her, and I didn't really say it to her, but as I listened to her, I was saying to myself, I actually agree with her, you know. But I can tell that she was saying it from a position of racism. But at the same time, it is what it is. I didn't verbalize that I agreed with her. I was kind of young at the time, but I was saying to myself, this woman is telling the truth. Likewise, she says, don't bring home no chocolate. And me being young at that time, I was saying, I'm not going to bring home no vanilla. As I wasn't married at the time, but that's the place where I met my husband. And so it has nothing to do with racism. It has something to do with biblical truth. We were instructed not to do this. So those of you who act like you're shocked and saddened and you feel like this is a bad thing to promote, then you need to do some research. You need to study history. You need to study the Bible, and you need to study the present day of what happens in some of these situations. We know things are very mixed up right now and things are kind of out of whack, but the truth will always be whether you like it or not. The truth doesn't change because you don't agree with it. It is what it is. So in my closing, I just want to really put it out there to parents of young men. It doesn't matter if they're only 5, 6, 7, 8. You have to instill this in them early, because if they are watching television even, they're going to be presented with all of these creamy faces that are being promoted as the standard of beauty. But they need to see that there is beauty with those that look like them as well. And if you're not going to be the one to teach them, society sure isn't going to do it. You don't have to teach it in a racist way or in a hateful way. We don't teach it in a hateful way. We just explain to them biblical truth, and we also explain to them how important it is that they preserve their lives by being obedient to the word and preserve their people by marrying someone that looks like them. Of course, we go deeper than that. I'm just trying to explain that there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing racist about that. There's nothing hateful about that. And when you look at the grander scope of things, a lot of our people are getting to the point where they don't care and they are promoting it. They're actually happy about it because now they get a chance to say that they have some other blood in them. You know, we act like that is the improvement of us. It's sad when people say, "Oh, I got Indian in me." It's really sad when people speak about that as if that is the improvement of you. Like you yourself wasn't enough. Who you are or who you look like isn't enough by itself, that you got to have something mixed in order for it to be something good. That is pretty sad when you get to that point where you believe that that is an improvement of you. Very, very sad indeed. Okay, I am done with this subject at the moment. I'm going to go ahead and move on from here. And I'm going to leave you with this. You better teach your sons to run away from dogs and heat like their lives depend on it. With that, I will say shalom. Be sure to ring the bell to be notified of new uploads on this channel, and also comment, share, like, and subscribe.